Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to be making the all vinyl Emily with the applique version, as well as magnetic snap on top and a zippered center divider. We added purse feet to this bag. It is made with Decoville on the outside only, and then for the center panel, I added woven fuse and Decoville. Actually, it was SF101 and 809, but a woven interfacing and a non-woven interfacing. This bag is amazing, and I kind of want to keep it, and I'm not meaning kind of, like I really want to keep it, but I can't keep all of them, so I'll have to sell it. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what we can say about this one, other than I'm obsessed with it. I want to make a million more, and I hope that you will enjoy making it too. So we're gonna start by sewing the applique to the front of the bag instead of working on the straps, just so this, is out of the way. So the pattern, I provide these pieces here, and I just kind of laid them down within the center and used a straight edge to kind of trace around the outer edge just to make sure they were super straight. And then I decided, I didn't want to waste these, so I just kind of added them to the top and the bottom. There is 1/2 an inch in between these two pieces. And then the piece on the back here is, I think, 8 inches wide. Yeah, so it's 8 inches wide, and I think I made it like 16 long, but really you only needed the size of the panel. You could even add just solid color vinyl back here. You could do anything. This is the fun of the bag. So what we're gonna do right now is we're just going to applique and reverse applique these on. So I'm gonna start with a stitch length of 4. You want it to be not way too short, but you don't want it to be way too long either. So we're gonna start at the top and go around. These are on with basting tape, or I'm sorry, basting spray. That's how they're attached, so that they won't shift while I'm sewing. And then I've made this piece back here really long. And as I mentioned in the pattern, I use a woven interfacing and a non-woven interfacing just to keep it really, really stabilized. So we're gonna start at the top, back stitch, and just go nice and slow. Oh my gosh, this is gonna look so cool. And you could choose to add maybe just one of these, or, add a different shape, come up with something different. You don't want it to be way too complicated because you are going to have to sew around it, and then if you have the same kind of machine, I have a DU1181N. What I do over here with my hands is I'm adjusting my needle and then like reversing to a certain spot so that I make sure that I end up exactly where I want to. Kind of like a pro tip. And I like to add a little back stitch at each corner. You want to make sure that those don't come undone. Just going really slow. I interfaced my exterior panel with 1 layer of Decoville Light, and this is just like a really nice vinyl from FM Stores in Springfield. It almost has like a cork backing, but a really nice, durable feeling finish. It's one of my favorites. So I'm getting close to the top, so I'm just gonna backstitch. And then I'm not going to pick up or cut my thread or anything like that. I'm just gonna move around to the outside edge of these pieces here. And this is something I kind of learned as I was sewing, is that you don't necessarily want to watch your needle. You want to watch the foot of your machine. If that makes sense. Like you want to look at the negative space around. And that's kind of how I like to eyeball seam allowances and everything like that. So So if that makes sense to you, cool. If it doesn't, sorry. I was actually gonna work on this last night, but I decided I was too tired, and I'm really glad that I didn't, because this wouldn't have turned out as beautiful as it is right now. Just nice and slow. Every stitch with purpose. And then as I get close to that, I'm back stitching over my existing thread. I debated about adding this one here because it is probably gonna get just kind of cut off into my seam allowance, but it looks really nice. I like the way it adds like a center panel feel to it, so I'm going with it. When you're choosing your design, one tip that I would give is to kind of just make sure that it's a very interesting design, but it's not going to compromise the durability of the bag. Like, if I added these all over, it's less likely that something could happen, and then someone's going to get mad at you thinking that, you know, you made their bag poorly, and you're like, well, no, you just have to be gentle with it. So something to keep in mind. This would be so fun with like a little Mickey Mouse shape in the center. And really, to find more shapes, all you have to do is like kind of Google. Maybe you could type in, for example, mouse ear silhouette, and just kind of cut around it and then carefully trace around it. Or if you have a vinyl cutting machine, you could just put your vinyl in that machine as well. There's tons of videos on how to do it. Mine will work sometimes and sometimes it won't. I don't know. Okay. So I feel like I've added plenty of back stitching now. I'm gonna leave my threads nice and long. I'm not going to cut off any of the this thread back here. I want to leave it like that. With embroidery especially, it just kind of helps add stability. And I'm just using this thread burner, which I would highly suggest if you're going to do things like this. And just kind of cutting off those threads. This is going to prevent it from fraying, coming loose. It kind of burns it. It leaves like a plastic hard feeling to the point, but you can't see it, and people probably aren't gonna like run their fingers over every single stitch, but up to you. But I highly recommend this tool, and the link to purchase is in the pattern or in the description of this video, and it is an affiliate link, so I get a tiny little percentage when you follow my link. Okay, so there is that. So now I'm just gonna trim off the excess down here. If you wanted to save this part to make like a little key pull or anything like that, you could just like fold it in half, add a strip of vinyl or something, but I'm just gonna throw it away. I'm not that worried about it. And then I'm gonna trim the top one too. All right. So that is the reverse applique portion of our bag. If you wanted to add this to the other side as well, you absolutely could. I would not recommend adding any kind of a pocket here. Ooh, a diagonal pocket would look really cool, actually. I've never really done one of those, like a vertical zipper pocket, but I want it to just be this design. So as always, there's tons of options that you could do. So now we can work on the rest of the bag. Okay, so with the handles, for this bag, I am not going to be adding a crossbody strap, so I only need 4 strap connectors. If you wanted to, with a bag like this, since it's all vinyl, you could choose to not sew the handle connectors onto the front, and you could do what is called a hidden connector. I love the look of the hidden connectors. I'm not going to be doing it in this video, and I don't explain it in the pattern just because I want this to be a really beginner-friendly pattern, but also something that you can kind of adapt and grow onto. So maybe I'll do like a free downloadable way to add those, but honestly I'll probably just do a video just because they're easier. I'm not always the greatest at typing. My brain moves faster than my fingers sometimes. Alright, so I use the double-sided tape and I'm just folding the long raw edges in towards the center. Might run out of bobbin thread while I'm sewing up the handles, but that is okay. I did cut my handles to 28 inches. I wanted them to be the long carrying handles. I haven't quite decided what hardware color that I want to do yet. I was thinking the antique gold would look really pretty, but I might go crazy and do rainbow because of the floral pattern. So I think adding the rainbow would just give it like this bold touch of fun. I don't know. I think I've decided I'm gonna do rainbow. I'm also not doing this bag with a zipper panel, so if you would like to know how to sew the zipper panel, that is in the structured Emily video as well as the easy slouchy Emily video. So if I was one of those fancy YouTubers who knew how to link it in the like above the video, I would do that, but I'm not fancy. Not yet, anyway. Just gonna go down one side, straight across. And right now, I'm actually, honestly, I'm looking past. I'm looking like through the foot to make sure that my stitches look good and that I'm not running out of bobbin thread. I also wanted to say thank you so much, you guys, for all of your comments. I love reading them. I don't get to read them all the time, but sometimes I'll sit down for an hour and read comments and kind of respond to you guys and answer emails. It means the world to me that, I don't know, that I'm helping you guys sew, and that some of you are even starting your own Etsy shops to sell your bags. I think it's amazing. If everyone in the world could just buy handmade bags, I think that would just be amazing. I know it gives me so much joy to like walk around my town, especially in St. Louis area, and be like, oh my god, I made that bag. Like, that girl's using that bag and I made it. There are the straps for the bag. And now I'm going to prep my connectors. And you could do this by drawing a line down the center and just folding them, but you guys know how much I love this double-sided tape. If you're looking on waywack.com, I think sometimes it's called leather tape. So I like the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch. I don't have an affiliate link for that. They do sell it on Amazon, but it's way more expensive than it is anywhere else. And I'm like, I'd rather you guys save money than me make 2 cents off of you buying it. So. Alright, so all those are ready, so I'm going to grab another piece of double-sided tape. I'll go ahead and use my smaller double-sided tape for this part. Alright, let me grab my hardware because I totally forgot to. I need a snap. And 4 1-inch D-rings, or 4 1-inch square rings. I'll also be adding purse feet to this bag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Okay. Alright, so we've got our hardware all ready to go. So I'm going to fold the top edge under by 1 inch, and then the bottom edge is just going to get folded so that it's touching the other raw edge. And we'll keep repeating. Some patterns, they want you to fold it into the center, but that doesn't always give you the strongest connector, so that's why I do it this way. I find it really interesting that some pattern designers don't actually sell their bags, which, I mean, makes sense. It does take a lot of time to make the patterns. I totally get that, but it's kind of interesting because it's like, how do you know that your bags will hold up the way you're telling other people to sew them if all you do is like sew them and leave them on a shelf? It's crazy to me. Okay, so we're gonna do that. I don't think I've talked about it in a video, but I'm going to be teaching in North Carolina for a bag retreat through Barb's Got Bags or gotinterfacing.com, and I'm so excited, you guys. I know a lot of you have said that you're coming, and I think that's amazing. It's so expensive. It's $550 for the weekend, but that includes your hotel stay as well. And then there's going to be 2 other teachers at least that I know of. Laura Middleton and then Lauren Whitney. I'm so excited. It's going to be a bunch of Lauras, and everybody's going to be Laura and Lauren's, and everybody's going to be confused about who's who. But it's going to be fun. I know a lot of you have said you're coming. I'm so excited. I'll definitely be bringing hardware kits for my class, my people. So sooner rather than later, I need to figure out what bag I'm doing because I still haven't decided. All right, so 1.5 inches from the top. Oh, I should probably make sure I'm following the directions. Huh, that might be helpful. Yes, okay. So we're not gonna add any exterior slip pockets or zippered pockets. I kind of thought about it, but then I was like, nah, I want it to be really, really clean on the outside. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches in. Oh, look at the way those connectors line up. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Oh, that's exactly like I pictured it. It's exciting. Oh, that one's not quite where it should go. Oops. 4.5. Oh man. I got excited and then I messed it up. All right, there we go. There we go. Beautiful. And what you could do is you could clip them all on and set them aside. I'll do that right now. I'll just tape that down and then I'll do this one. The Decoville Light is one interfacing I would highly recommend if you're going to do an all vinyl bag because it does not wrinkle heavily when it's fused properly and it doesn't take much to fuse it. So I've been using my heat press with at 129 degrees Celsius. 4.5, and it fuses really fast, like within 4 seconds. So the likelihood that you'll compromise your vinyl is slim to none with the Decoville, so 10 out of 10 would recommend. All right, there's that. Oh, I love the rainbow with this. Good job, Lauren, good job. All right, so my stitch length set to 4. Back stitch, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch. Turn it. Grab my little scrap piece. Leave my stitches long. Oh, there's a fly. He wants to be on YouTube. All of those long. Almost trimmed some more. Oh my god, look at the front of this bag, you guys! Ah! And the colors, they match perfectly. Sorry. When it all works out, it's super fun. to use my thread zap to trim all these threads. And then I'm going to add, I think I'm going to add 2 rivets to these connectors. One there, one there. No, I'm just going to do 1. I like the look of 1. Especially since rainbow rivets are stupid expensive. But they're worth it. Okay, so we're just trimming off the ends of all those. And then we will move on to the rest of the bag. All right, so now we're ready to attach the bottom panel of the bag. So what we're gonna do is there's these kind of notches, indentations on the side. We're gonna lay these pieces on top of each other. They should meet up nicely. My stitch length is set to 4, which is good when sewing vinyl together. I'm just gonna sew 1/2 inch seam allowance down one side to the other. Trim my extra threads. And then I'm gonna flip this down and sew across that seam. And this actually, like, you can see I hit it, and that's actually less than I was anticipating, so it still looks really cohesive. I'm excited about it. And you can use like a 4.5 to top stitch. I interfaced the bottom of my bag with 1 layer of Decoville Light and then a piece of Peltex. I've been trying to kind of use up my Peltex before I switch over to Decoville Heavy only. And the Peltex, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad, but once you start to use Decoville Heavy, Decoville Light, all those, you'll learn that they just have a totally different feel. So right sides together, we're gonna line up the other side. Switch back down to a 4. If you use a stitch length that's too wide, you'll start to kind of see your stitching from the other side, and we don't want to do that. So switch it back to a 4.5. And then we're going to open it up. Just kind of make sure everything else is out of the way. Alright, so now we're going to add purse feet. You can add 6 purse feet if you'd like. I just go ahead and add 5 because I sell them in packs of 5, and just kind of makes it a little easier. Because really the weight of the bag is kind of be centered, so that's where you want the final one to go. So 4 I feel is just too few, 6 can be too busy. And honestly, it's harder to get all of those like lined up just right. I don't know. So I do 5. So we're gonna go 1.5 inches from the edge, make a mark. 1.5 inches from the edge, make a mark. And I'm using a 1-inch ruler just at the top there. And I like to add purse feet after I've attached the bottom, only so, you know, you can kind of control how centered they are. And you can control, what was I gonna say? Sometimes when you are top stitching, you could get it too close and your machine could kind of mess up your top stitching. That's what I've run into. So that's why I add it now and not after or before, I should say. All right, so now I'm just using my Tulip Pink seam ripper to slice open those holes. And I'm just pushing in and kind of letting the width of this blade be my opening. And then we're gonna slide all of the purse feet in. It just makes sense, you know, you wanna push the purse feet in the same way. So if you have your purse feet Like you can't put it in perpendicular, it's gonna take a lot longer, so you just wanna go in straight. And then I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna turn each one. That gives it a nice tight fit inside that hole. It's more likely to stay. And then I've got these washers here. So I'm just gonna open my purse foot and slide it on top through the washer on the parallel sides. You can put them through the center, but it just doesn't really do much for the purse foot. It could still easily pop out, but when you put them in angled like this, it gives it more of a, like a roadblock. It has to get through that and then out. So that's why this is how I do it. So you just kind of split it open with your fingers and slide on the washer. Like so. So there, with the addition of purse feet, it's just the most magical bag I've ever seen. Bring the main panels right sides together. As I'm filming these videos, I'm also editing the pattern, so if you see me like move off to the side to write something down, that's what I'm doing. Clip them together. And I actually cut my vinyl a little crooked, so that's why this side over here isn't matching up. But this side will. So 1/2 inch seam allowance, stitch length of 4, little back stitch at the top, all the way down the side. Get the bug. Go get it. Alright, so I am not adding these side connectors to my bag, so I'm going to trim my seam allowances. I am going to kind of taper off near the bottom of the bag though, so I'm going to leave that long, just because I think that helps you kind of open your stitches at that seam. Push this down. And if you use the right seam allowance, this piece should just kind of fall together. And I'm opening up my side seam and adding a clip. I repeat that for this side. So my seam is a little bit off here, but that is okay because I'm still going to catch it with my 1/2 inch seam allowance. So it's not the end of the world. And we're just gonna sew from one stitch line on the bottom panel to the next. You're not gonna sew all the way across the bottom, just because that will make it look a little wider than it really should be. So from stitch line to stitch line. Make sure your side seam lays nice and flat. Okay, whoops. All right. So then we're trimming it only on the stitch portion. So you're gonna leave those corners uncut. Like so. So there's what the bottom of our bag looks like. And kind of open it up. Look in from the inside. Oh my gosh, it's like stained glass. That's so pretty. But we're gonna set this aside for now. So now we're gonna work on the lining. It says we can press the recessed zipper panel, but we're gonna skip that because we're adding a magnetic snap. So we can just go on to the next page. And we are adding a magnetic snap. Oh, snap. No, dumb, okay. So I'm just gonna kind of fold those together, fold this together. And then 2 inches from the top, I'm gonna line these up. Gonna grab a piece of double-sided tape. And then line up those center creases, ba-bam. To find the center of these pieces easily, just fold them in half and lay them together. If you can, use double-sided tape to keep in place while you sew. Top stitch around the outer edge of pattern piece 8 to secure it in place. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna switch to a 3.5 to top stitch this on. Just go really slow. This is kind of like a squoval. Sounds like we'll be running out of bobbin thread soon. That's fine. Okay, leave those threads long because we're gonna burn them off. Okay. So now we're going to take our washer and just kind of eyeball it into the center. I think it's like 1/2 inch. Okay, it's like 5/8 of an inch from the top. No, it's 1/2 inch, yeah. I don't know, honestly, I'm just gonna eyeball it. Nailed it. It's a little high up. All right. I'm gonna poke through those holes. And then you'll add your magnetic piece. Really, Ben? What are you doing? He's up in a window. And then secure that. You can push them inward, you can push them outward, whatever your little heart desires. Lately, I've been trying pushing them inward. They still feel secure, so it works. All right, now we're gonna repeat that step with the other side. Open it up. Oops. Piece of double-sided tape. Grab my little ruler. So 2 inches from the top in the center. Just gonna line those up. Boop. And then sew that on. Okay, so we're going to repeat the steps to add this snap. Kind of eyeball the center. Oh yeah, that was very center. Why do I keep doing that? All right, I'm gonna peel off this plastic bit. Pop on the other side of the snap. Okay, so now we're ready to add our zippered pocket. Oh, I'm also adding a slip pocket. Okay, cool. Good to know. I plan these bags on different days, and I get confused sometimes about what I'm doing. What's new? Okay, so we're gonna make a center crease. We're gonna take one pocket piece and fold it in half to make a center crease as well. Lay one pocket piece, 6, on top of the center crease, 3 inches from the top of the lining panel. So we're gonna overlap our magnetic snap tab a little bit, but that is okay. And then 1 inch from the top of this, we're gonna start marking out our box. And then I've still got my small stitch length set, so I'm gonna bring this over here. Now we're going to trim. So now I'm going to iron that from the wrong side really carefully. If you do iron it from the right side, make sure to use a pressing cloth so that you don't ruin your vinyl contrast snap piece. Beautiful. And I think I'm gonna add this really bright purple zipper. You can use a handbag zipper or an all-purpose zipper. I like to add handbag zippers just because they add a little oomph, a little layer of class, if you will. Okay, fold the If you'd like to add 2 pockets to your bag, you can do that now. We are not going to, but we will be adding a sectioned slip pocket. Yeek. There we go. So we're gonna add that back on there. And then we're only gonna sew in a U shape along the bottom. Or not along the bottom. To fold this part under so that later on it's a finished edge. All right, so now that pocket is finished. We're going to leave that open. And we're going to grab our sectioned slip pocket and our other pocket. And I'm using waterproof canvas, so I'm only using 1 layer. If you're using a regular fabric, I would use 2 and maybe a little interfacing, but we're gonna fold this top edge under twice. And it helps if you iron your piece first, just to kind of loosen it up. I'm just gonna use all the clips in the world. You could choose to only fold the edge over once. As far as I know, waterproof canvas doesn't really fray. It's just up to you. I like to give it like this nice thick top. I don't know, makes it feel substantial. I feel like we're gonna run out of bottom threads again. Didn't yet. Okay, and then if you wanted to, you could sew around that top edge one more time, but this feels nice. Just feels nice. So right sides together, but they're facing opposite directions, and you're lining up the bottom panels 1 inch, or so there should be 1 inch of this outer corner, and you're just laying it down. And if you want to, you can use pins or double-sided tape to help you keep it in place, but I just kind of hold it, let the machine do the work. Okay, and then sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, what's happening? There we go. Just kind of hold it. And there's my bobbin thread. You can kind of like hear that hollow sound the machine was making. That's how I always know. You know, when you know, you know. extra threads. All right, and then we're gonna flip this up and we're going to iron it. Okay, and then I'm going to sew down the bottom. And you can baste on the side too if you want. All right, so now we are going to add our center stitch line as well as the outer boxes. So you're just gonna line your ruler up with those open corners because those corners kind of come in to make like a trapezoidal shape. So they're pretty useless as far as pockets go, unless you wanna add pens and stuff to them. But again, they're really deep. So adding pens to it wouldn't work so well. So we're just gonna sew those closed. So I'm gonna start on this side. Yes. No. I'm trying to figure out a way I can sew it all together, but so I'm just going along the top. I'm gonna turn. Closing off that corner. I'm gonna repeat. Weapon. This side. And then if you want to leave this as one big open pocket, you absolutely can. I'm just gonna use my center seam, my center crease. So straight down. Okay. So now you have this great big pocket. And you can put all the things in it. Amazing, right? I love it. Yes. Man, you need to get out of the way. Okay, so we are ready to add the top. Go to your spot. Go to your spot. Or hang out there. Cool. We're ready to add the top of the lining. So if you decided to add the recessed zipper panel, you'll want to follow the instructions in the pattern for that. But if not, we're going to take pattern piece 5 and lay it right sides together on the top of the lining panel and sew together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm just gonna kind of prep them all at once. Okay. Half inch seam allowance. When you're sewing with a cat on your machine, make sure to leave his tail out of the seam allowance as well. Because he doesn't seem to understand that this is not his spot. But, hey, what? Oh, you're getting the fly. Thanks. Thought he was retaliating, like, no, this is my spot. stitch length, move it up to a 4.5, maybe even a 5. And then we're gonna fold this up. So we're gonna be stitching on top of that lining panel. All right, so now the way I line these up is I'll snap them together and then I'll clip the sides. Just gonna clip everything together. And then we're gonna sew along these sides here, but we're gonna leave the bottom open. And that'll finish off our lining. But not before we add a sectioned or a center divider. So I'm gonna set that aside for now. I'm gonna grab a long zipper. We'll make this one a really pretty blue. Oh yeah, that'll be pretty. I'm using a zipper much longer than I really need it to be, but I want to make sure that, you know, there's plenty. And I am going to be taking 2 of my waterproof canvas lining pieces. And these are cut from the main panel of your exterior fabric. Okay. So I'm going to follow the directions for adding the zippered center divider. This is the last page of the pattern instructions, page 24. If you're using regular fabric, you're going to cut 4 of these, and 2 of them can match your interior, your lining fabric, and then you can cut 2 of another fabric just to kind of add a pop of color inside that zippered portion. Mine is just waterproof canvas and it would be too thick to add 4 of these, so I'm just gonna do these 2. That, and it's nice that it is waterproof, so I like to leave it that way. 1 lining piece face up, add your zipper face down on top of the lining piece. If longer than your lining piece, it's okay. We will be trimming down the excess fabric as well as zipper. We're gonna baste the zipper into place. I'm gonna let it trail off the side because it gets sewn in anyway, so yeah. So now we're going to press open the seam and top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper. Again, if you're using lining fabric, regular quilting, cotton, whatever, you're going to have a total of 2 pieces on this seam, and you're just going to like open it up and sew. I'm going to steam this really quick and kick the camera. Adding that little bit of steam just helps loosen up the waterproof canvas so it's not so bulky as you're sewing. Just gonna sew along the top edge. And if you want to add like maybe a second row of stitching, you're more than welcome to. I'm gonna leave it like that, and then we're gonna add the second piece on the other side of the zipper. And Ben's gonna shift the way he's laying. Thank you, Bobbin Overseer. We ran out at just the right time. So now this is the last bobbin I wound, and it should be just enough to finish off the bag. Oh yeah. I'm winning bobbin roulette today. I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket. Just kidding. Okay, so now we're gonna open this up and repeat those steps. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this with right sides together. So you're going to see the inside of the pocket, and we're going to sew along the bottom edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Yes. So just kind of follow the edge of the foot. And then we're gonna flip it open and sew along again to kind of hide that seam. So right now you should have like a zipper tube. And I'm just gonna iron the bottom. And then if you want to if you want to sew together the sides too, make sure you bring your zipper pull in. Just baste that together. Oh, did my thread break? Oh, Ben, you're adorable. Can I have that? Can I have that? No. No? Can I have that? Excuse me. Excuse me. If I cut it off, will that work for you? There you go. Oh, it's less fun now, isn't it? So along this side too. Okay, bye. So now you've got like this long zippered section. And the way we're going to insert it into our bag is going to be a little different, but bear with me. Because you're going to find it interesting. At the very least, you'll find it interesting. All right, so nearly completed lining panels. And we're going to sew along the top sides at a 1/2 inch seam allowance only 3.5 inches down. So I'm just gonna mark out where I should stop. So 3.5 inches down. And 1 inch on the bottom edges. Like so. Okay, 1/2 inch seam allowance and go. Smaller stitch length. And then we're gonna back stitch each one of those. And then the last one. Okay, and then I'm going to trim all this extra thread. Okay. Sew it together. So now we're going to bring the corners together, matching the side seams. I'm going to open it up. And sew along the bottom using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So if you're gonna have like these side slits that are wide open, but we know the basic shape of our lining now, which is like I said, it's a trapezoidal shape. So we're just gonna slide this in. Make sure you bring your zipper in. Okay, so just sliding it in. So you can see there's a lot of excess on the bottom. That's okay. So there's that side. Looks like I stitched down a little too far. Yeah, I did almost 4 inches on this side, so that's my bad. So I'm just gonna undo my stitching a little bit and we're gonna stitch over it again, no problem. But I wanna make sure that my center divider isn't like weird or bunchy like it, and it was, and now it's not, so nailed it. So we're gonna sew. This is a little bit tricky because we sewed the corners together, but if we hadn't sewn those corners together, we wouldn't know the shape as well. So we're just gonna start there, kind of adjust it, make sure it's not crooked. Make sure your zipper is zipped, unzipped about halfway. And then we're gonna repeat it with this side, just kind of make the bag the shape it needs to be. There we go. Okay. And now I'm gonna do the same thing with this side. And I'm just starting a little bit above where I stitched previously. Kind of adjusting this as I go. Okay. 1, 2.5. Okay, so now we're gonna cut off all this extra seam allowance on the side. And then if you want to, you can sew the bottom of your bag closed completely and only birth through this pocket, or you can leave the bottom of your bag open so we can birth through there. But when you look inside, you've got this center large zippered pocket, and you can put stuff on either side. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so now we're ready to add this into the exterior of our bag. I left the bottom unsewn so that we can birth through that. So with the finished lining pieces, place finished lining pieces right side out, unzip the recessed zipper, skip if using magnetic snap closure. Okay, and we've already sewn that together. I might have some extra threads. So for the finishing the lining steps, since we used the center divider instructions, we can kind of skip over that 54 and 55, but we're going to attach the lining to the exterior. So we're going to take the lining right side out and place it into the completed exterior, which is wrong side out. Hi, Ben. Okay, so we're going to line up the side panels, clip them together. like to see this bag all finished. Match up the side seams, clip along the top opening, and then we're going to sew along the opening. With a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to use a stitch length of 4. So I'm just following along. Back to the beginning, and when I get back to the top stitching, I like to extend my stitching just a little more, but in towards that seam allowance. So we're gonna pull the unsewn lining back through the unsewn zippered pocket. No, that's not true. Yes. Okay. Okay, we left the hole open in the entire bottom, so we're going to grab bottom exterior of the bag and pull it through. I like to make kind of like a taco shape and pull that whole corner through. You want to go kind of fast because you don't want to leave wrinkles. Here we go. Push it all the way out. Make sure you push out those corners. Make sure you don't cut your finger on a purse foot. Kind of readjust any washers if needed. Poke out those corners nicely. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to, the center divider can kind of flip-flop on either side. We are going to grab the bottom unsewn portion of our bag and pull it through the birthing hole left open in our zippered pocket. We're gonna get attacked by a cat, clearly. It's kind of hard. You gotta pull it through pretty much. Okay, so we're just gonna line up the bottom, clip it together. And since we added that center divider, we already stitched in about 1 inch, so that's kind of nice. So I'm just going to slowly maneuver this under my machine, and with a smaller stitch length, about a 3.5, just going to back stitch and then continue sewing that bottom together. We'll move them. then pull out only the inner lining pocket and sew that shut. Oh, I didn't add my nameplate. Let me do that really quick. That would not be good. And I'm going to center it there on those points. Get everything out of the way. And add my nameplate washer. Okay, now we can sew that pocket closed. Come back down. We'll do it now. Oh, come on. Come down. Okay, so we're gonna stick the lining pocket back in, and then we're gonna start to clip the lining into the bag. And then the lining top panel, piece 5, gets folded inside the bag. And I just kind of slowly roll that seam in between my fingers. Oh, are you getting down? Come here. Oh, you're stuck. Come on, you can do it. Good job. I like to get everything clipped together. Make sure my lining, oh. I don't think I can sell this bag, you guys. I want to keep it forever. Look at all those pretty colors. Ugh. I'm done. Sorry. That was weird. Okay, zip up that pocket. I always like to zip up that pocket just so I know that I've zipped it up. Because, you know, it happens that sometimes I forget to. And then there it is, all clipped together. Oof, she's pretty. She's really pretty. If your nameplate looks a little crooked, you can kind of tug on it in one direction or the other, just to kind of straighten it, but you know, it's handmade. Okay, we got a top stitch. We got a top stitch baby this evening. All right, I like to start behind a strap connector on the wrong side. Just 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to stitch at 4.5. Those sides might have a lot of bulk to them, so you want to make sure you kind of press down and kind of help your machine get through it, kind of give a little push with it. And we're almost done. Then I'm going to make my stitch length really, really small so I can add that final securing stitch. Trim those long, and then we're gonna burn them off. Burn, burn, baby, burn. Burn those threads off. I feel like it's tradition I sing a stupid song. I'll try and fix that, I apologize. All right, and again, I'm just gonna readjust the lining inside the bag. You can see that that Decoville really doesn't leave that many wrinkles, and if anything, it kind of gives it like an aged, weathered look that I really like. And then I'm gonna grab some strap ends really quick. These are just clamp-on strap ends that I'm gonna start selling. And I really wanted to use these rainbow ones. So I'm just gonna grab 4. This bag is magic. Okay. I'm gonna grab my little glass thing. Trim off my extra strap bits. If you're gonna add strap ends, I always recommend just kind of trimming up the ends so they look uniform. And you also kind of want to cover up that stitch line. Okay. So I'm just gonna hold this like that and push. They feel so secure. I always like to clip my straps in place. You could even use a little piece of double-sided tape to help them stay together while you're riveting or sewing them onto the bag. Oh my gosh, they feel so secure. I love it. Okay. So I'm gonna rivet these kind of off camera, but that is it. This bag is finished, you guys. And is it beautiful or what? Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for purchasing this pattern if you did. If you didn't, it's probably what you should do next. There's the bottom. You can see that I caught the tip of that, but honestly I thought I would cover more, so I'm pretty happy with the results. There's those purse feet placements. There's the sides of the bag. All right, thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.